Hello everybody, this is Women's Grandmaster Sabina Foisor. It's been a long time since I made a video and I thought it was about time that I got back on track with my stuff. And I really hope you're going to enjoy my video today. There's going to be a little bit of emotional stuff, but aside from that, I really hope you're going to enjoy the game that I have prepared. First of all, let me start by saying happy birthday to my mom. She's been a big inspiration for me throughout my childhood and today. It never stops. And although I don't tell her that often how much I love her and how much she means to me, it is in there somewhere. It's coming out bits and pieces. We should, of course, for today, see one of her games. Why am I so much inspired by my mother? Well, she always had this amazing ambition and amazing patience and determination of always going forward. It didn't matter what the result was, you know, she would always get back up. And I know that she's gonna do it in the future as well. It wouldn't matter how many people are gonna be against her. What she has achieved throughout her life in chess specifically, I think it's amazing. And even if people are going to try to pull her down, that will never happen because of all this amazing motivation that she has. And I'm really hoping that through my videos and throughout my life, I'm going to be able to pass that further. Or pay it forward, like we know that expression in English. What else can I say? Where did she get all that motivation? Well, probably it's in the family. But aside from that, I know she has had an amazing motivation taken from somebody who actually passed away recently, Muhammad Ali. When I was a kid, I remember that my mother used to tell us that we are the most beautiful, both my sister and I, the most beautiful, the smartest, and it doesn't matter what's going on, we're going to beat everybody. And it's a really good motivational speech to tell a kid. And, you know, as you get older, maybe things are changing, but when you're a kid, it's always sticking there, you know, and you're always ready to come back. And she got this speech from Cassius Clay. And, you know, I have to admit, for a long time, maybe until I was maybe 14, 15, I didn't know who Muhammad Ali was, you know. I always knew about Cassius Clay. And it stayed with me, you know. It was always the type of motivation that I needed to get back up. And he passed away recently, but his motivational speeches and his amazing willingness of always coming back has been passed around along through generations, and I hope it's gonna be in the future as well. Now, he wasn't the only person that passed away recently. 2 days ago, Grandmaster Viktor Korchnoi, one of the strongest players in the world for a long time, and somebody called him the only top player that never became a world champion. I think he was an amazing inspiration for a lot of us, and for a long time he's been playing chess without caring that people are pulling him down. So although I don't know if I'm trying to make connections here or no, I do know that both these people have been great inspirations from a lot of us, so we hope that they will live forever in our hearts and in our knowledge. This might have made no sense to a lot of you, but let me get back to the game and tell you about what's going on here. So what I've chosen for today is the game that my mom played against Victoria Smilite, a very strong woman chess player. And this game was played in 2012 at the European Women's Chess Championship. My mom actually had a great start. She had 6.5 out of 8, and she was close to, you know, qualifying for the World Championship. Unfortunately, due to reasons you can never explain, That did not happen that year, but she always was able to come strong, like I mentioned earlier in this video. And I really love this game because of her determination and her willingness to play the games till the end. Regardless of the position and regardless of how small the advantage would be. So I won't show you the entire game, but I will go to this point on move 42 of the game. And we have here a position where she has an exchange down, and it seems like, you know, there's some compensation for white, but it might not be very clear how that would happen. But if you have learned how to evaluate a position, you certainly are going to look at black's king and realize that the protection is gone away for some time. And also all these pawns here on the 5th rank seem like a potential target for white. So how did my mom continue in this position? Well, in order to be able to attack all of the pawns, we should for sure create some more weaknesses. So she started by capturing in g5. Now, queen takes g5, of course, if black captures back with the rook. Now there's also a pawn in b7 that could be captured by white. So queen takes g5. And in this position, my mom played knight f4. She loves playing with the knights, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that ever in my videos because I try not to make personal videos. I would get too emotional and then things would be things would not go maybe the right way. So knight f4, improving the position of the knight and already looking at the weakness there. But in the same time, there's a d6 pawn, that's backwards pawn, and a d5 square where we can definitely have an outpost. Whether it's going to be the rook, the knight, or the bishop, we're going to see in a little bit. And now, as I mentioned, this king is weak and is about to allow some rook d5 or bishop d5. So Similita decided to go king h8. Now, in this position, you might think that white's king is not that well protected either. And now, in order for black to get rid of this pawn, they could play h4 and you know, try to open up the g file. But this knight is a really great protector, so this move won't do very much. We can just capture, and well, you can't really capture back, of course. You're gonna lose in f5. So slowly, white is getting some more compensation for the supposedly less material. But you should also remember, just because somebody has more material than you do, so material advantage, it doesn't necessarily mean that their position is better. We have to consider king safety as well. And after white would capture in f5 in this position, certainly white is the one trying to push for a win. Possibly the king could try to go to e2 and the rook could come on the h file, for example. So Similita went king h8 and now rook d5. A very good move, starting to attack the weaknesses that white has. Well, black actually weakened their 5th rank earlier in the game. Now rook e5, the only move to try to save this f5 pawn. Moves like rook f7 don't seem to be the type of moves black should consider in this position. Most likely, there are a lot of possibilities here for white, but queen d1 or bishop f3 are some of them, trying to get to this h5 pawn. Okay, so rook e5. Okay, trade, pawn takes, and now knight e6. So, in order for black to try to avoid giving away these pawns on the 5th rank, which would, of course, lead to some attack on the king, now black decided to give away the exchange, because now white has knight e6, which, of course, my mom did. And white captures back the exchange, king takes. And in this position, bishop takes b7. Now, the position has changed from the beginning, so it is important from time to time as you're playing your game to reevaluate the positions that you're playing. And what do we see here? White has a pawn up, but it is opposite color bishops. And we know that theoretically, opposite color bishops are going to end in a draw. Well, yes, a lot of them. But there are exceptions, and you have to know how to play, and you need to make sure you're making the right moves to try to defend the position. So let's see how my mom continued here. After bishop takes b7, Smilita went for f4, trying to trade some more pawns and get towards the endgame, which of course should be a draw. Now king g2, trying to improve the position of the king. F takes e3, f takes e3. And now Smilita is trying to trade another pawn. The more pawns you trade with black, the easier it's going to be to make a draw. Okay, g takes h4, queen takes h4. We had no choice in stopping those pawn trades. And here, queen f5, a very important move, centralizing and activating the queen. And looking at this little weakness in black's position. Also, if you're not being very careful, just because I'm very nicely active and my bishop can come back to e4 or maybe d5, I can start creating some threats before you manage to trade the queens and actually get the opposite color bishops. So Smilita did the right thing. She went queen f6, offering the queen trade with the belief that this endgame would be a draw. Well, let's see if that really was that way. My mom chose e4. Now, in this position, technically, white should try to keep the queens on the board because you have more ideas of trying to create mating threats. Specifically, on this diagonal, like h7, for example, maybe go queen to h3 and then try bishop e4. And it's not going to be very simple for black to trade the queens. Like, for example, queen h6. Maybe now we could trade them here, and now the king is far away, so this king would just enter very easily, right? So that's why black couldn't trade the queens. Would probably have to go some, if they try some queen g6 stuff, the king would slowly try to come on the queen side, and then of course we still have mating idea threats. We just need one moment out of check so that the bishop comes back into play and has some real threats. But my mom decided that e4 was going to be a nice way of continuing to push in this game. Queen takes f5, the correct approach, trading the queens, and now supposedly this endgame should be a draw. And yes, the answer would be yes, it should be a draw, but you have to make sure that you're going to be able to make a draw. It's not so simple. Why? Because white, first of all, has a passed pawn in f5. And second of all, the king has quite an easy way to try to enter and try to win another one of your pawns. Now, when we are discussing an opposite color bishop position, we need to have first a passed pawn, and then we have to try to create another passed pawn a little bit further so that it's going to be more difficult for the opponent to defend, because the king has to stop one pawn and the bishop has to stop the other one. If the pawns are too close to each other, then the bishop will be able to stop both in general, or the king will be able to help the bishop stop both. But if they are further, if you can actually manage to win another pawn and the pawn that you won is further away, you have big chances of winning the game. But we are really going way ahead in this position in our thoughts. We can't possibly imagine a white can win another pawn here. They're all on dark square and the bishop can just protect it, and how are you going to do that? So you have to try to slowly improve your position and hope, let's say it that way, that your opponent is not going to find the best solution, the best protection. Smilita chose king f6 here. And now, okay, you don't want to give away this pawn, you just discussed about it, so bishop e4. Now, sometimes you have to get a little bit passive temporarily, specifically when you have material advantage. So bishop e4 is a really good protecting move. The bishop can go somewhere back, and then the king is going to try to enter later on. But it's important to keep it here. We're also stopping this e-pawn from pushing. Bishop g7, improving the position of our king. King e7, and here bishop c2. Leaving the space for our king to try to get to d5. Smilita stayed. Now my mom decided to go the other way around for the moment to try to bring this king on this side. King f7. You cannot afford to let white to get the king too close because at some point you'll be in Zugzwang, and I will be able to maybe push this pawn or something on those ways. Maybe not immediately, but you know, when you have a winning position and your opponent doesn't have any chance to try to win, you can afford to make even moves on one side and then go back on the other. It's also making your opponent more tired because you know they have to think for every single move, and that's always a nice approach. Now back with the bishop. Bishop d5. I stopped you from going to f7. Okay, and here my mom, well, let's not forget about the queen side. She played a3. The idea is at some point maybe we'll have some b4 possibility, and here we've got it. We would have two passed pawns, right? Black would also have two passed pawns though, so you have to kind of think about it. You need to have your king close enough to whenever you're going to play b4 trades, you'll get that pawn, so, you know, you'll have two pawns further away. That would be a nice idea. But it's not so simple to make it work because it might so happen that if you get the king too close, black will have at some point some e4 check, and then will capture a pawn or try to push this pawn further. Who knows? King e7. Okay, bishop c2 back. King e7, king h5, trying to enter this way. Bishop f7. Now there are some waiting moves here. Don't worry about it. Like I said, it's very important to try to improve your position slowly. Bishop e6. Now, of course, as you notice, e4 would not be possible at this particular moment. If the king could try to get to e5, maybe it would work. But, of course, we are close enough. If e4, king f4, and the king captures, and then, of course, enters that way. So black has to simply stay here. a4. Just a waiting move. So it seems like white is giving away the opportunity of playing b4 after this a4 move. So let's see if it was really the wisest move. I'm not going to tell you anything, keeping it as a secret. a4. Stay. Bishop b7, king d6, bishop e4. And as you can see, she's very determined to win this game. I mean, she has a slight advantage a pawn up, but now after a4, it seems like b4 will never be possible because you'll simply give away a pawn. And the only opportunity that white could have is try to bring the king to d5. And here she comes. Finally, king f3. She went back for a second, most likely to win 30 seconds, because we know these days games are played by increment. And here, brilliant move. I mean, I think it's just amazing. b4. I'm giving it double exclamation points here because a move that seems impossible to make. I mean, you know, there are two pawns that are going to capture in b4. You're just giving me away the passed pawn. The extra pawn, and you think you're going to win this? Seriously? Yes, I'm going to win this, and I'm going to prove to you. Okay, so obviously black has to capture with this pawn because if they take with the a pawn, this is going to be very hard to stop that pawn. And when you finally go to b6 and stop it, simply my king is going to enter and has a free way to b7, and then this bishop can control both of the pawns. Or I might try to win this one in the process, just get to d5 and try to win. Anyways, so definitely c takes b4 is necessary. I mean, definitely you cannot wait. I'm going to possibly capture in c5 and then just try to win with that. Okay, so what was the idea? Trying to push our second passed pawn. We have reached the thing that we wanted to reach. We've got two passed pawns and they're quite far away, so it's going to be hard for the king to be able to help the bishop to stop both. But it is possible still. For black it was possible. But it was very important here to find the right approach. And the right approach was to actually play king e7 in this position. Because now, if you go c6, now black goes king to d6. And whenever you play bishop e4, black can simply play b3. I'm gonna give you this pawn for that one. And then we've got 2-2. You cannot possibly believe that you have some chance to win that position. So this was a very important move for black to play in this position. However, it's not so simple to think about that idea, you know. You might think that the king is already in front of a pawn. I'm gonna try to stop that pawn with my bishop. So this is what Victoria Tsmilita did. A very strong chess player has not made the right continuation here. And like I was saying, you have to be determined to really want to win a game, to try to find an idea like this and then just go for it. And you know, anybody can make mistakes. Okay, bishop e7. Let's see how do we continue. Well, obviously c6. And here bishop d6, trying to stop the pawn. Now, another possibility you might think it would work well would be to go bishop d8, to think that, wait, bishop d6 doesn't seem right because you might want to bring your king there, like we said earlier, and try to get the pawn so the bishop is in the way. You might think that bishop d8 would work too, but unfortunately it's a little bit too late. If you try to bring the king here, sorry, not king e4, bishop e4, bishop e4 in this position, and now you're put in a strange situation. If you try to come king to d6, my king will come to e2. So now, as you notice, I am in the square of this pawn, and I like to always point out to my students what the square of the pawn is. I am in the square of the pawn, so I won't have to give away my c6 pawn for the b pawn. So my idea is, of course, to start bringing my king towards b5. And then, of course, if you push the pawn, of course, my king will be close by. I'll be able to capture in b1. You won't trick me that way. And what's so special about bringing the king to b5? Well, the specialty is that afterwards my king can go to b7. And then, because your bishop won't have too many moves, I'll be able to push the pawn. Or it'll be in Zugzwang. Okay. So, if you go after bishop e4, if you try to play just stay a move, well, we said earlier what we're gonna do. Just bring the king. You can just stay. My king will come to c4. And if you go king c7, of course, I can just enter king d5. And I'm going to go, well, either win your pawn, or I can do both, win your pawn and promote this one. And if you just go stay with the bishop, like I said earlier, my king is entering. And in case you don't believe me, let me just point out to the variation. And say you play b2 also. I go king b7. Now, obviously, you don't want to give me that pawn, okay? So you're just going to stay bishop d8. So what do I play here? Well, notice the pawns are quite far away from each other. So now, even if your bishop and king are controlling c7, and it seems like the bishop controls f6 too, you can't stop both of them. So I can just play f6, and then, you know, obviously if you take, I'm playing c7 and promoting. And if you try to go king e6, obviously I still play c7. And when you take, I come king d6, and I'm going to win. Luckily, my bishop is of the right corner, so I'm going to be able to win this very beautifully. So bishop d8 wouldn't have made a big difference. Now let's see what happened after bishop d6. The king came. King f6. You could say this was a big blunder that actually made it more simple for white to finish the game faster. King e7 would have posed a little bit more trouble, let's say, but the trouble wouldn't have lasted for much longer, because now, even if you bring your king to c7, it's a little bit too late. And now, again, I'm gonna go for f6. And if you just stay, I'll play bishop e4 first, making sure that my pawn in c6 is protected. Then I'm going to, for example, you play bishop to d6 in this position. And now, let's see. I can just actually come this way, king c4. Try to come to win your a5 pawn. If you play king b6, I will just give you the move. Bishop somewhere. And of course I want to enter through b5. If you just stay, bishop f8. Now we cannot play king d5 yet because the king will come back. So we need to give you one more move. Bishop, maybe bishop f3. And then if you move the king, once again king b5. And if you move the bishop to d6, then of course we can give you one more move. And then my king can come. So white is winning. So let's see how my mom finished the game after king f6, king e4, king d5. We don't take that pawn, of course. Bishop e1. Or actually bishop e4 might have been more accurate in this position. She did play bishop b1, and after king e7 the king went, and here f6. King has to take, king d6. White is going to be able to win that pawn, and with the a pawn is going to win the game. c7. And notice the awesome thing about pawns being too far away and not too much pushed is that the bishop most likely will have a diagonal where it could stop both of them from pushing. So this is exactly what this bishop in b1 does. You can never push one and try to chase me away so that you promote the other one. I'm stopping both of them. And by the time you come to try to push the pawn, you're a little bit too late. Now king d5, you're in Zugzwang. If you push, I'll take. If you just move the king, of course, we take. And then the king is gonna go capture that pawn. The bishop will be given on this pawn, and the a pawn is gonna win. And this was the last move of the game. Obviously, if black promotes in this position, we simply take. And now, pretty much any move, well, not any, wins. Black is one move behind from actually stopping this pawn from promoting. So there, I think, a lot of things to learn from this game, and not only chess-wise, but also psychological-wise. And I know my mom has played a lot of amazing games. I just she played a game today also in the European Championship, and although she didn't win that game, she only made a draw. It kind of reminded me of this win. She also had an opposite color bishop endgame today. But okay, you know, sometimes things don't happen the way you want them to, but there's always tomorrow, and there's always much more fighting for. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please excuse my emotions if there were too much. I'm wishing you all a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in my next videos. Thank you. Bye. And happy birthday, Mom!